Failure experiences are inevitable. We have to learn how to cope with it and roll with the punches. That is what molds you. So you're going to have to learn how to face failure in the face and say, I'm not afraid of you.
I was just going to say, and not be afraid of it. Yeah.
Correct. Because the fear of failure is what is, I get it. You can't move because you're afraid of not succeeding. I think the biggest risk in any entrepreneurial endeavor, especially transitioning from the W-2 world, is not risk itself. It's improper planning.
Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
Welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. I am so excited. This episode, you guys, is it's really special. So I'm going to start off by just saying, you really want to make sure that you follow us on all social media, TikTok, Facebook, Lead Like a Girl Lab, on YouTube, subscribe. Thank you very much. So the reason why
did you mention subscribe?
Just wait, did you say subscribe once?
Yes, please subscribe.
Cool.
So listen, this is for those of you that have not been paying attention. We have not had a male guest on Lead Like a Girl yet. And Corlin, tell us, how many episodes are we on now? I think we just had an anniversary.
You would know.
We actually are 62, I think. 62, 63 episodes.
Okay.
Now you just put me on the spot and I should know the number, but
No, you shouldn't.
It's more than 50, less than 100, but still going strong.
Well, I'm excited because I just go with the flow and say, hey, lead me where you lead me. And I met this awesome guy at a training in Florida a few weeks back. And, you know,
very PC though, right? Like,
and we started chatting.
This awesome guy, and we started chatting.
And first of all, I was just right. That's me. And we started chatting, and first of all, I don't know if you knew I was going to call you out in terms of this guy is younger than he looks. And that's what I was so impressed by, just his knowledge and the information, his expertise. And I'm like, this guy's got to come on our podcast. And then I learned that he's doing the podcast and the book and all this stuff. And he's going to tell you about that a little bit. So I'm excited to welcome Caleb Cowden as our very first male guest on Lead Like a Girl.
Hi, Caleb.
He's what I call a serial entrepreneur. Okay. M&A specialist and the CEO of Cowden Consulting LLC. He currently serves as a senior M&A advisor and business broker with Trans World Business Advisors, which, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is the world's largest M&A franchise where he helps business owners grow with, and I love this, by the way, intention and exit with clarity. So a lifelong entrepreneur, Caleb co-founded and scaled Puma Trailers before transitioning into advising others on buying, building, and selling companies. He's also the co-CEO and CFO of CNC, that's a lot of C's, Media Group, host of On the Clock Business Talk podcast, and author of The Decision Blueprint. I mean, this guy, you've done a lot in all of your not so many years of being here, Caleb. So in this episode, Caleb is going to share his perspective on building an entrepreneurial path while working in a corporate role. And listen, this is why this touched my heart, because you guys know my story. And I am going to be screaming this from the rooftops. If you know that you are an entrepreneur, please do not wait until corporate America dismisses you and leaves you to figure out your exit strategy. Don't do it. don't do it. I need you to pay attention today and really think about exit strategies, and how we're going to do that. Caleb's going to give us so much information today. And whether you're just starting out or already scaling, he's going to bring practical tools, real world stories, and a fresh take on legacy minded leadership. So, again, let's get in it. I'm so excited to talk about this. So, Caleb, I hope you're ready for this. I love to catch people off guard, by the way. That's my thing. Ask these two, they never get the notes for a show in
Bring
advance.
it.
So listen, we all probably, looked at each other's LinkedIn. That's one way that we get to know each other in a professional environment. So I want to know, and our audience wants to know, what is one thing that people would never guess from your LinkedIn about Caleb? Tell us.
Well, before I answer that, first off, I just wanted to say thank you guys for having me on here. It's been an honor to be featured on your guys' podcast as first male guest speaker here.
That's
really
quite the title, isn't it?
Yeah, I got no pressure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Very humbling. Thank you for that introduction, Jessica. I really did. That was humbling to hear. I mean, you can build yourself, but to hear somebody else introduce you with your accolades, it's very humbling to hear. So thank you for that. All right, now enough stalling. That was a very good question. I'd have to say, if you look at my LinkedIn, I think my LinkedIn is a good reflection of highlight reels and first impressions. It looks just like the introduction. There's a lot of accolades. There's a lot of things that I've accomplished, and one thing that I think that people would probably not guess at first glance would probably be that I've lived in a whole nother life behind that and all those accolades that I am pretty open about, especially with my clients.
Okay.
But when I'm talking about the life that I'm referring to, I've been broke. I've been addicted to substances and drugs. I've lost relationships, lost family. I've even found myself homeless at one point or another for a stint it's a little embarrassing to say, but it was a while. And living out of my car while trying to chase my tail, trying to get a business to be successful. And I rebuilt from the ground up. And I've had to reinvent myself a few times. I've done it more than once. And people that know me, they know that I don't half-ass anything. When I like to say, I say this with as humbly as possible. I win big. When I fall flat on my face, and I fall hard, and I fall very publicly. And so having to reinvent yourself many times, you do tend to have to find that balance with struggling with identity crisis. But part of being an entrepreneur is learning how to pivot, right? So I'm very transparent with my clients whenever we're talking about failures and transition periods, right? So I'm open about my failures, but I think at first glance, all you would see is the success, but I feel like the real value is the story behind where, what it took to get there. That's not the sexy part, and that's the part most people don't talk about. So that's the part I think would be the most important to talk about.
Yeah. And Caleb, thank you for being transparent and being vulnerable, because I did not know that about you. My research on you did not give me that information, and ChatGPT didn't share that with me about you or anything. So thank you. I really appreciate you being vulnerable there. And of course, my story, and definitely resonates with me. And I think that's a big part of our success, is that you build up that grit and resiliency through the mistakes that we've made. So next question that I have is, what's a lesson from your first business venture or job that still shapes you today? And I want to hear from you two ladies too, because you didn't have my notes either. So I'm curious to kind of compare if you have a story or feedback on that as well. But I'll start with you, Caleb.
So we're going to have to take this all the way. For those of you who don't know, I'm 28 years old. So So
I know. I feel
just
like we need a little bit of your origin story. We need to know.
He's like, I've been here, but
where did this dude come from?
yeah.
So I have a mom and a dad, and
I mean, maybe not that early. Maybe fast forward a couple years beyond that.
Okay, so we'll fast forward a decade and 2 years. My first attempt at, or I guess my real taste at being an entrepreneur. I grew up in a family where we were very much encouraged to be self-sufficient and go-getters. My parents are very entrepreneurially minded as well, and I guess I learned it through immersion, right? And one day I went to my mom and I heard all my friends at school were getting allowances, and I wasn't, and that didn't set well with me. So I went to have a conversation, and I petitioned. I petitioned the board. I was not happy, and I was like, "Hey, where's my distributions?" And they quickly informed me that being a contributing member of the household, you don't get paid for, because since you can't provide monetarily, then you're not going to be paid to do what you're expected to do to be a contributing member of the household. And so you have to give back in some way. So I wasn't going to get paid for my chores, but she gave me an alternative. She told me I could go start my own business and then I could earn my own money. And I was like, I can't start a business at 12. And she said, you can do anything that you put your mind to. Those words, every mom says those, and they think that their baby's the genius of the family until you have a second one and they're also a genius, and the third one is also a genius.
Lucky mom you have.
Yeah, so she didn't play favorites, and so she helped me design my first business. It was don't laugh at this, you can, but it's called Super Suds on Demand. It was a car washing service where I came to you and you never had to leave your home.
Yeah,
I had a little Razor moped, and I took a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket. I went to the store. She was my first investor. She did contribute to get me my initial supplies so that I could pay her off so that I could have the business outright as my own. And we bought the car washing supplies, took a little bungee strapped it to the back of my moped, and she sent me on my way. And I've always been really good at math, so I figured, all right, one thing I have, I guess, just self-taught is efficiency, right? I wanted to play, and work was not fun because I hadn't ever been paid for the work I did. So long story short, I figured if I did charge $20 a car and I did 5 cars a day, that's $100 a day. No kid at my school makes that kind of money. And because I was still cute at the time, and I told them that I was saving for college, which was an absolute lie. I was blowing it at Walmart and Target, every store we went to. But I had the intention of saving it for college. It didn't work out. And I ended up getting way more cars than I could even handle. And eventually I had to recruit cousins and family members, and it was a lot of fun. So that was my first taste. And what that ultimately taught me, to answer your question, is the ability to just go get and do things yourself. Don't depend on anyone else. Because ultimately, if you don't know how to sell yourself, sell your services, granted, I had a little bit of an advantage being young and cute, but ultimately you can't rely on anybody else but yourself. And if you're relying on somebody else as a fallback, you're already setting yourself up for failure. And that I've always kept that mentality ever since. And that, I think, is what ruined me from the corporate world.
Mm-hmm. I love that story. Can you guys beat that? Do you guys have anything? You had a lemonade stand, didn't you, Corlin? I can feel it.
I did not have a lemonade. Well, maybe we did. Actually, I will tell you an honest truth. We did. I did have a lemonade stand. You just brought this up in the deep recesses of my brain. We did have a lemonade stand, and I remember we got our stand set up right across the street from the gas station, which is probably, we were thinking like maybe there'd be a lot of people coming and going, but they're like right across from our competitors. Like people are coming out with already got all their drinks or whatever. But I remember the first time we were selling these things, and we probably ended up making like $5 or something. And then the last day, our last little customer was two dudes from around the block that came over and was like, hey, you should let us try your lemonade, and you should let us try your popcorn that you're selling. We'll try it, and then we'll come back and pay you.
And you went for that. Huh?
And that's how you got introduced to credit.
And that's, right. They did not come back, and we were so mad. And, so that was a little bit of a life lesson. But
yeah, in my neighborhood, we would have hunted them down and we would have beat their ass. That's what would have been.
Oh my
Jamie,
gosh.
what do you got?
All this makes me think of is like all of my first jobs, right? So I was like 12 and I was picking strawberries, I was detasseling, I was babysitting. I think
you
this
would
is the
be
first,
picking strawberries.
Yes. You got paid by the amount that you picked, and I didn't make shit because I ate them.
Kind of like how my money never landed in my college.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like, I mean, when you're sitting in the strawberry field with these big old, of course you're going to eat them. But I was thinking about this as you were talking about your, the car washing thing. I think this is the first time in my whole life I've only had one job.
Oh yeah. You were
I've always
that
had,
person.
yeah, I've always had more than one job. Even like when mom was still alive, like we had our cooking business along with, so I literally through high school, college, maybe not direct buy. This is the company. Maybe not there. I don't think I had another job. So that might be a.
Come on,
little bit of
Darren
a
and
fit,
Dana
but-
aren't listening. You can you
No,
had another
actually,
job.
you know what? I babysat for them, so I'm just saying. I think
Right,
I
there
had
you go.
another job
She
then
was
too.
moonlighting and you knew it.
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
Well, this is a perfect segue into what I want to talk about next, which is entrepreneurship while employed, and really talking about balancing your business ambition with a corporate career. And I mean, what do you guys, let's talk about, first of all, are you seeing, Caleb, are you seeing more of that now than ever? And if so, why do you think that is?
Well, in all my 28 years of being on this earth, that I will say, it is more common to hold now a second job or a safety net while you're trying to transition. If you're even having any kind of forethought about trying to make a smart transition, I would say it is more common now because things are so much astronomically more expensive than they used to be. And one thing we all have learned at one point or another is bills don't stop, and starting a business is a risk.
Yeah.
Any investment is a risk, whether it's a time investment or a money investment or businesses or both. And so, yeah, I think that's fair. I would say that I would not recommend just quitting your job cold turkey and starting a business. That would not be smart. And if you need more information on that, when my book, The Decision Blueprint, comes out in December, please give it a read because it will help you understand why that's not a good idea. But
Yeah. And in your book, do you get into, and ladies, just cut me off and shut me up and jump in any time here because I'm just
we do.
so right.
Yes,
I'm just
no problem
so
with that.
so excited about this conversation because this is what I have said for many years, and I hear this a lot, and I'm sure you'll say you do too. It's like I'm just waiting for the right time.
You remember when I told you about my mom when she started her cleaning business? She was a baker. She was like a bakery deli manager for a grocery store for like 20 years. And when she was like 42, something like that years old, she started her own commercial cleaning business. And every single time I asked her about it, her first thing was like, all I wish is if I would have done it sooner. She's like, that's the only thing I would change about this entire decision I made was I wish I would have done it sooner. So
this is something that we really, really focus on with Cowden Consulting just a little background of what we're about over here is I invest in people. I help develop and grow people because ultimately a business is the result of the operator behind it. So if we want to truly build smart businesses that are profitable and good assets, we need to start with the people first. And one of the things that we really try to touch on is not only mindset changes, but to your point about she wished she would have started it sooner. Mm-hmm. Too many people wait for the perfect time to start.
Right.
And that time doesn't exist. It really doesn't. There's no time like the present. But one thing, and that's why what alluded me to write the book that I wrote is to use that as a resource to help people understand timing does play a factor, but it doesn't prohibit you from taking the first step. There needs to be, you need to start with the exit in mind. You need to have a plan, and then you need to execute the plan, but you need to also surround yourself with the right advisors, the right consultants. Build your team first. Don't just jump in off the deep end. You're setting yourself up for failure. Failure is not always a negative thing. Caveat to that failure is our biggest teacher. Yes, but if we can avoid, you're going to experience failure inevitably plenty of times. Trust me, you don't have to make it harder on yourself. And so waiting for the perfect time to start is actually fundamentally the first mistake. Then we want conscientious business owners, conscientious entrepreneurs. You don't build when it's easy. You build when your plan and is aligned with your goals, right? Success, the definition of it is preparedness meets opportunity. You need to be prepared for when the opportunity rolls around, and then you can execute when that opportunity comes because you have a blueprint in mind. So that's the whole basis for this book is smarter decision making. That's it. You don't get in your car, and start driving to somewhere you don't know where you're going. You put in your GPS coordinates. You think about where you're going first. Then you start going on the road to get there, right? So, so that was, super, super passionate about that point. That's a very good point.
Yeah. And when you think of, do you have conversations sometimes with people and try to get them to understand the difference between like, okay, this is being a hobbyist versus an entrepreneur? Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So
is that a difficult conversation to have?
I'm a very blunt person.
Yes, so you are.
Make sure
another reason why we were like this, Caleb, like
we definitely hit it off pretty well. I'm thinking about my words because I don't want to be offensive, but I want to say this in the most down to earth way possible, because honestly, this is a problem, and the way to differentiate the two is kind of a gray area for a lot of people. But when I think hobbyist or somebody that claims they're an entrepreneur or self-employed, right, versus an actual entrepreneur, how do you filter that? What is your metric for measuring what's real and what's not? Ultimately, it boils down to one question, and that's the question I ask, and then I shut up and wait for the answer is, what are you risking? Or what have you lost? Because ultimately, a hobby is something we enjoy, and there is no negative consequence of that hobby. I don't go play golf as often as I do because I have to. As a matter of fact, my fiance sometimes probably wishes I'd play it less. And even if I'm absolutely terrible at it, and I have a terrible final number on my scorecard, and I come home pissed off, and I'm, griping and complaining about how terrible my golf day was, I didn't lose anything. My life moves on. At the end of the day, I'm going to go back probably tomorrow and try it again. That doesn't necessarily count if at first you don't succeed. Try again. It does in a sense, but it's not. A hobby is a little bit different. The difference between an entrepreneur and a hobbyist is an entrepreneur, it's about survival, right? We have a risk. We have a reason why failure is an inevitable evil that we will experience, but complete failure is not an option. There's a difference between having failure experiences and learning what you need to learn from that failure and getting back on and coming in the resiliency of just continuing to come back versus letting it ultimately beat you, versus total giving up and quitting, right? That version of failure ultimately is not an option for a real entrepreneur. It's survival. So the difference, in my opinion, between a hobbyist and an entrepreneur is, what do you have to lose? If you have nothing to lose, then you're not an entrepreneur. You're just a hobbyist. There were so many people at that conference at West Palm Beach, Florida, Jessica, that we were at. And sometimes you don't get to see in other people's perspective. You think it's just only you that experiences this because you don't get to see what everyone else goes through. Right. And that's not sexy to talk about. So everyone we talked to was there for a reason. They had somebody that was betting on them.
Yep.
This was their final ditch effort. If this didn't happen, they'd have to go back to the W-2 world And, maybe they're aged out and they just lost the drive because they started too late. So ultimately, what do you have to lose? Hopefully that answers it pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
What
Absolutely.
do you think about people who start as a hobby and don't really expect it to be as successful as it becomes, and then all of a sudden they're unexpectedly an entrepreneur when they didn't even anticipate that would happen?
That happens. It's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially if it's something that you enjoy. Were you going to say something, Cor?
The whole idea of risk is a conversation that I don't even think that we've really dove into with any kind of clarity or seriousness. I'm really curious, Caleb. It was like, so you talk about being an entrepreneur, talking about needing to have risk and have a little skin in the game. Tell us about that timeline between your 12-year-old Soapy Suds business to where you're at now. What kind of risk did you put up? How did that feel? Can you talk to our listeners a little bit about when it's good risk versus just freaking stupid risk? Talk to us a little bit about your expertise in that and how you came to be where you're at right now.
Yeah. So every investment is a risk, in my opinion. And I'm gonna answer your second question first, and then I'm gonna go back and backtrack and give you a little bit of backstory. I don't feel like the nature of risk mitigation and being an entrepreneur is something that we need to focus on too much, because it is a risk, right? Why I say that is because risk is inevitable, right? Failure experiences are inevitable. We have to learn how to cope with it and roll with the punches. That is what forges you as an entrepreneur. That is what molds you. So you're going to have to learn how to face failure in the face and say, I'm not afraid of you.
I was just going to say, and not be afraid of it. Yeah.
Correct. Because the fear of failure is what is, I get it. I call it the analysis paralysis phase, where you can't move because you're afraid of not succeeding. I think the biggest risk in any entrepreneurial endeavor, especially transitioning from the W-2 world, is not risk itself. It's improper planning or non-relentless execution. The second you hit a hurdle or a roadblock, then you want to crumble. That's a mindset issue. We can fix that, right? But it's going to take some time. It's going to take the right counselors, the right teammates, the right advisors, the consultants in your corner. That's why we talk about build your team first before you ever build your business. Because if you wear every hat on your own, you're not going to succeed. Just like if, I'll use a sports analogy. You play football, and my football coach told me this in high school and stuck with me. I don't even remember the context of the conversation, but he was telling me that, Caleb, if you play every position on this field and you go play the game Friday night against the team we're playing, how likely do you think you're going to ever see the end zone and have a chance at even scoring a touchdown? They're going to run right over you. So you come into the game with a good team around you. That's your CPAs, that's your accountants, that's your attorneys, that's your advisors, your consultants. Those people are ultimately in your corner and aligned, and your success is mutually, they're aligned with you. Your success is their success. Build your team first, build your plan with an exit in mind, then execute and make the transition. To answer your question about from 12 to where I am now, I feel like I'm an expert on what not to do because I feel like I've done it. I've been in so many different industries. But I'll tell you where ultimately it really hit for me and it showed me what I was capable of. There was a trailer manufacturing company that ultimately gave me my aha moment and my light bulb moment. And I talk about it in the book in greater detail, but for time's sake, I had some money partners in that deal. I had an idea, saw a hole in the market. I was working in corporate and manufacturing company side of the business for actual trailer manufacturers. And I saw an opportunity. I pitched investors. I had no money in the deal. We raised capital. We got the partners together, built our network, and we came out with a bang. And we did very, very well, very quickly. And those investors were silent partners. I was the CEO, owner, operator, but I built my team first. I knew what to do because I had done it wrong so many times before. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. I was very much, by definition, insane right up until that point. I was like, okay, now I'm dealing with other people's money, not my own. I cannot do this wrong. So I actually took the time to do it right and took my own advice that I give now, built the team first, and I was like, oh my gosh, this works.
Yeah.
We're turning over, I think we were doing 1.7 to 1.9 million a month in revenue. We were profiting 3 to 500K depending on the month out of that. It showed me I can do this if I do it right. There is a way to do it that is smart, and then there's a way to do it. A blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, right?
Yeah.
You can stumble into success. Success is not hard. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like it's the smarter people who don't see success because they talk themselves out of it. I'm very delusional.
Yeah.
It's the delusional ones who will find it because they're the ones that don't know when to stop, when to quit. And they shoot for the moon because they think they can actually land on it. Where smart people will be like, that's impossible. I'm not even going to attempt it.
Be dumb enough to believe. That's me. That's me.
So,
be dumb enough to believe. Yeah.
Ultimately, that company is what showed me what I'm capable of. And once you find a system that works, business is simple. Create a system that works and rinse and repeat. Don't change something that isn't broke. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. And just replicate, and be relentless about it, execute. And so that's what we did. And that ultimately was my light bulb aha moment. And ever since then, that's how we do things.
Yeah. No, I love that. And one of my favorite things to say, everyone knows, is reverse engineer. My whole life is about reverse engineering, starting with the end in mind and reverse engineering into your goals. And listen, I think we need, I don't know, we may need an extended stay in this conversation, Caleb, because it's such good stuff. But when you think of, because the reality is that a good portion of our listeners are women, and I want to know, tell me a little bit about specifically this space when it comes to women, entrepreneurship, exit strategies, and please be as blunt and transparent because, my last episode, I said, girls, we're, complaining about a pay gap when it comes to men and women in corporate America, but the majority of our problems we create for ourselves because we don't ask. So I get kicked out of the girls club sometimes, and I want to give you the opportunity to freely speak when it comes to women in this space. What are you seeing? Do we need to say it with our chest? Do we need to stop fearing? What do we need to do? Please speak freely. I got your back.
Well, first off, I want to tell you, I told you this when we were in West Palm Beach. Whenever I meet a woman who is a girl boss, it impresses the hell out of me. I have the utmost respect for a woman in business, even more so a woman who is a minority ethnicity in business, because you have to work 10 times harder than your male counterpart to get to that role.
Facts.
So therefore, if I want to kill her, I'm picking a woman like that to be on my team. And one of the things I feel like, I don't know if it's necessarily, to your point, a problem with women entrepreneurs, more so as it is a problem with society as a whole, because we're still trying to break through some negative stereotypes and some ways that business back in the old days was viewed and ran, and that was not really a place for women at that time, and times have changed. I think that women-led businesses are some of the most creative and resilient, high-value companies out there. I mean, the government gives incentives for starting businesses if they are women majority owned. So I think we're seeing more push and more incentive for more women businesses out there. And like when we're talking about exit strategy, when you're starting a business, that doesn't necessarily mean exit doesn't mean I'm ready to sell. Mm-hmm. It means that you're building something worth selling. So you need to build it with intentionality. Mm-hmm. And then when I think that as an advisor in the mergers and acquisitions space, and a consultant in the business space, one of the things that I really feel passionate about is I think that there's a lack of resources and a lack of education that is people are willing to give because, the economic principle, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Tan Stoffel, well, we can use that for advice too. Sometimes advice is not accessible, right? The educational resources. And I think as an advisor, that's one of the things that I really strive to do is, and I think the industry as a whole could do a lot better on providing more resources for women business owners to be able to achieve their goals. because I mean, they're powerful workhorses, and we're just like sitting there staring at them like where's the value being placed? It doesn't make sense to me. So my advice, like, build something with intention. You're talking about reverse engineering your business.
Yeah.
Think like a buyer when you're building it. Don't track your money, track your EBITDA, understand your SDE, understand your growth trends, track it all, because have it documented. Keep your books, hire your team to professionally keep your books. So everything is clean. Buyers we buy future cash flows. That's it. Your business is an entity. If you break it all down at the end of the day, it's a profitable income generating asset. Okay. And an investor, he just wants the income. So build it with the end in mind. That's what that's referring to and alluding to, not necessarily planning your exit, because you don't know what the future holds. But you can, success is preparedness meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. You can be prepared for when that opportunity for that exit arises by building it right from the start, tracking your progress, knowing your money, knowing how profitable your asset is, documenting that, make it provable. So that way, money doesn't discriminate. It really doesn't. So that's one thing you can hang your hat on. And most people don't care who owns the business at the end of the day, especially an investor. He just wants the income. That's what they're looking for. So I would say that would be probably my biggest concern, and what I try to do differently to be different than other industry professionals.
Caleb, I want to ask you, one thing you said at the beginning, you had mentioned that, quitting your job outright is not smart. So you talk about the people who are wanting to do something different, not have a W-2 job, not have their 9-to-5. Talk to us a little about the strategy of working on your side hustle enough to make it effective, but not blow yourself up too fast, too loud, not ready yet. How do you do that? What's a good strategy for balance when you're trying to ramp things up and make it work?
That's a great question. And I'm going to tell you, we overcomplicate this. We overthink it and we make it harder than it is. Life has a very unique way of making sure, if you're working a full-time, especially in the corporate space, those hours are demanding, and we know we're not paid by the hour. So therefore we don't work the traditional 9-to-5. So I guess it depends on where you're at, but it dominates your life. It's very difficult to time manage. And that's where I think we get stuck, as making that transition. We overthink it. There are only 24 hours in a day, and there are 7 days in a week, but you are not working all 24 of those hours and all 7 days in that week. So instead of overthinking about all the things and the reasons why this is going to suck, it's going to suck. Being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you have a glamorous lifestyle and it's all easy. It's going to be arguably more work, but you can time manage and get creative, because when you're at your corporate job, one thing that I really, really hit on, when you're there, be present. Do not try to work on your side hustle while you are on somebody else's time. Yeah, they are renting your time. They own your time at that point. You are a slave to their time. Money is not the most valuable thing on the planet. It's time. And then once you truly learn how to get your time back, then you're free and out of the race, right? So how do we do that? Late nights, weekends, skip the birthday parties, skip the vacations, take that time. Corporate events, unless they're mandatory, you've got a business that you're building. And when we talk about exiting or building, we're not always talking about building a business either. Mm-hmm. I really like to stress that to my clients. We're talking about building yourself, building your life, the life you want, building your legacy, and building your exit plan, not necessarily always from your business, but it could be also from your job. Mm. And when we're talking about, back to the point of reverse engineering your business, what do you want to do with the destination in mind? The one thing that is the biggest red flag for a buyer is if the business is you. That's why I stress build your team first, because if the business is you, once you leave the business, there's nothing there, right? So build your team. You can only be in one place at a time. Mm-hmm. So you need to learn how to time manage and replicate yourself. So ultimately, in a nutshell, you've got to maximize your time. Mm-hmm. If find that good time efficiency balance, It's not going to be easy. Nobody said it would be.
Yeah.
But it will be worth it, because only once your asset becomes to the point where you being at this job is hindering its growth and it has replaced your income or matched it, then we make that smooth transition over. That could take an immeasurable amount of time. It depends on your drive. It depends on your plan. It depends on your team and your relentless execution and your ability to stay disciplined and time managed.
Yeah. I love that.
There's a lot of truth in that too, because I feel that's the thing is that this is not an easy. This is
how. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Correct.
Yeah. That's good.
But hearing that you have to put the work in and put the effort in and make things happen, and there is some sacrifice to get with everything.
I was just about to say, yep, sacrifice, and sometimes that's. I had one of my mentors even just said this. To be that top 10%, you have to be willing to do the things that no one else wants to do.
Oh, that's so true.
That's it. And it's
not
like,
sexy.
It's not. Sometimes, and sometimes that means sacrificing. And I hate to say this, your family, your kids. I mean, that's just part of it.
If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, that's why, who was it? Bill Gates, I think, said it. There's 2 seats in a Lamborghini, and that's why there's 20 seats on a bus. Your circle's going to get way smaller. When you build yourself, it's a lonely game. Your friends will drop off. Some family will drop off, or all of your family. It just depends on your family. Your support system will get very small. And then I also encourage them, once you let natural selection in entrepreneurship weed out the people that aren't really in your corner, do not let them back in once you get successful, because then you become who you hang around. You become who you surround yourself with. It's easier to pull someone down than it is to drag them up with you. That's why a peak and a summit on a mountaintop is like this, where the base, everyone can stand there. There's not enough room. So ultimately, yeah, it is. It's a sacrifice, and it's ugly, and it's long. But
this is a great conversation. Listen, last question I have for you. Finish the sentence, Caleb. Success to me means.
Success to me ultimately means, at the end of the day, we know the mathematical equation. I've talked about it already. Success is preparedness meets opportunity. But to me personally, it's when I can own my time and I do not have to give my time to anybody but my family. That's when success happens. Whenever I've built a moat around my life to where no matter what the economy does, no matter what life throws at me, because life will take any opportunity it can to screw you. The game is to build that cushion to where when you do hit those inevitable failures and fall on your face, that fall gets shorter and shorter and shorter each time, because that inflation of cushion that you're building up, it makes the climb back to where you were before a lot less harder and a lot faster to build yourself back. So that would be ultimately what success means for me, is I own my time. I'm truly free.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, one takeaway, ladies. My takeaway from Caleb today, let's see, is there's so many. It is build your team and start with the end in mind. That's mine. What do you guys got?
You're muted.
The point that resonated with me was just that there is just one of you, right? So when you're talking about selling a business, let's say you start something, you're successful at it. If there is just that one person, which is you, there isn't anything left, right, to sell. Like, just to, I guess maybe piggybacking on what you said, Jessica, like build the team first, so that when you've got this nice, neat package of a successful thing that you can sell to someone, or maybe you're going to have that exit strategy, it's not just completely dependent on you as that one person. So I really liked that a lot. That really resonated with me.
And I would just add to that, I think a couple of things. One is that your confidence is awesome. I think that, and you gain confidence by trial and error. You see, like, you've had a lot of failure, but you've had a lot of success, and you can be confident in what you're saying because you've walked the walk. And I think that says a lot, that a lot of times where we lack confidence is just we haven't really tried. and you get more confident when you do the thing. So that speaks volumes. And I just think that the opportunity that you have to just give yourself a chance, even though when you're talking about starting a business, starting the whole idea of this risk, you have to have some risk in the game to be able to do it. And it's going to be scary. It's going to be uncharted territory, but if you don't take that step of faith and you want to, but you don't, you're going to regret it. And so I feel like the piece of advice for our listeners is just, you're scared, do it anyways.
There we go. Do it 100%.
Anyways. And I'm going to just one more thing I want to touch on too, Corlin, to your point. Sometimes too, when we're talking about risk mitigation personally, and this could be a different topic for a different time, so I won't go into it too much, but I personally don't believe if you're in a situation where you don't have a high risk tolerance at the moment for whatever life circumstance you're in, building a business is not the move for you. It's not.
Absolutely.
I would actually more encourage you to hold on to that corporate job, use that job as a way to stack capital, be your first investor. Let that business be your first investor and grow through acquisition. Buy somebody else's hard work, skip the risk, and buy somebody else who already went through that portion. You can retain your job. You can still have and buy a team, buy a system, buy an asset until you eventually can make that transition. Talking about mitigating risk, way smarter strategy, way more complicated and a little bit harder, and it delayed gratification.
Yeah.
But smarter move, in my opinion, in terms of smarter decision making. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Great point.
I love that.
Yep.
Caleb, tell our listeners before we wrap up where they can find you, what they need to look for, the book, the podcast, all of that good stuff. Let listeners know. Where do they find Caleb?
So right now, I'm doing a little bit of restructuring on my socials, but I am very active on my LinkedIn, very responsive. I use that for business a lot. You can find me on my LinkedIn. Please go connect and follow me there. As regards to the book, The Decision Blueprint, we will be officially, we're pre-marketing it right now. We'll be officially releasing it December of this year. And then On the Clock Business Talk is our podcast, where we sit down and have these real conversations with real entrepreneurs. And whether you're, a W-2, an entrepreneur, or you're in the corporate sector, or seasoned or inexperienced, brand new founder, whatever walk of business life you're in, we have these conversations as an actual, educational growth resource that we can provide that free access. So that podcast will be launching in January of 2026.
Okay, so you heard it here first on Lead Like a Girl. We're getting a sneak peek in advance on Caleb, and it's Cowden for those that are listening and not on YouTube. It has been an absolute pleasure, Caleb, and I have a feeling that you're going to be back again. We still have more to talk about.
I would love that. This has been a blast, and it's been an honor to be here. So thank you guys for having me. Absolutely.
Yeah. So remember, Lead Like a Girl Lab.
Caleb, we need to get you some Lead Like a Girl swag.
Yeah,
you're going to be
very proud.
We have these trucker hats, Lead Like a Girl Lab. You can get all of that good stuff and follow us TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of the places. And until next time, we will see you then.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.